I thought today I would do a mid-month wrap-up for my January reading because at the end of the month I've been having like huge stacks of books and it's a lot to get through. Plus, I have books that need to go back to the library, so I thought I would just talk about the books that I read for the first half of January, and then I'll do another video talking about the books that I read in the last half. And I'm usually reading multiple books at once. I just decided I'm going to talk about them in the order that I started them, and yeah, we'll start from there. So my very first book of the year was actually a really exciting one because I gave this one 5 stars, and that is Aggie Morton, Mystery Queen. This is The Body Under the Piano. So this is a middle grade series. There's 2 books out so far. That is based off of Agatha Christie. So our main character is Aggie Morton, and she meets this friend Hector in this book, and she loves like Sherlock and all those sorts of things, and comes across a dead body. And I loved this book because it is so Agatha Christie-esque. It's actually really neat. Right in the first few pages, there are a lineup of all the characters that are in the book. So you've got like your main characters, and then you've got one of these is the person that ends up under the piano, and one of them is the person that murdered that person. And yeah, I like this format because it's just like Agatha Christie, but yet you got a bit of a visual. And I really enjoyed the writing, the humor, and the wit. Yeah, this was so exciting for me. I'm so glad to have started my year with this book. So this is going to be a 5-star book, and at the end of my next wrap-up, I am going to do a giveaway like I always do. One of my favorite books of the month. I will give one of them away to one of my newsletter subscribers. So this one is definitely going to be an option for that, but you'll have to wait until I do my like end of the month wrap-up before finding out if there's other options and stuff. So you can sign up for my newsletter so that you can enter to win if you're interested. Okay, and then the next one I started, this is like such a short book. This took me so long to get through. This is Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis. This is the first book in his space trilogy. And I did go into this knowing that I was going to try to appreciate it for what it was, but I didn't think I was going to enjoy it. And I would say I succeeded in that. I haven't figured out 100% what I'm giving this one for a rating. Maybe 3 stars. I found it quite boring for the most part. There are long paragraphs. And I don't know, I struggle with long paragraphs. Like there's all this description in this book, but I couldn't visualize what was happening. So our main character, his name is Ransom. Dr. Ransom, he gets kidnapped and taken somewhere, and this is kind of mostly about his time at this place. And I just couldn't help but think as I read this, I couldn't stop thinking like, this is a good idea. I like a lot of it. I wonder what Brandon Sanderson would have done with this book, how he would have made it more interesting, how he would have given the characters more depth. Yeah, so lots of people have said that maybe I'll enjoy book 2 more, and then book 3 I think sounds kind of terrible. I don't know if I care to finish the series or not. I'm glad I read one of the books, but I can't guarantee I'm going to finish this or not. If I do, I'm definitely not going to buy the copies, and I'm going to get them from the library. The next book I started, I actually ended up DNFing. So this is Wildwood. This is a middle grade book, kind of set in Portland, but it's like fantasy. It's really cute. Like it's got lots of illustrations. Oh, there's even a colored one. I thought the beginning was very interesting because right in the first paragraph, the main character, this girl, says how 5 crows managed to lift a 20-pound baby boy into the air was beyond Prue, but that was certainly the least of her worries. So anyway, in the very first paragraph, her brother gets abducted by crows, and like, I don't know, that gripped me. But I got about 60 pages in and I was just bored. I felt like my 5th grader, who is a pretty good writer, actually writes better than this. It felt like I was reading a child's work. Like I was a teacher back teaching and I was reading kids' work. Yeah, so it just wasn't the way I wanted to spend my time. So I ended up quitting this book. I didn't think it was terrible. I was buddy reading it with someone who thought it was terrible. I just was bored. And yeah, there's better books out there. Okay, and the next one I already had to go back to the library. That is Rebel Rose. So this is a Beauty and the Beast, kind of like a retelling, but this is kind of after the curse has been lifted. So we continue on, a continuation of Beauty and the Beast. I quite enjoyed this book. I think I'm giving it about 4 stars. The book is set during the French Revolution and I read for enjoyment. I don't really read to learn, but when I can learn while I'm enjoying the reading, that's a benefit. And I've always struggled with the French Revolution and honestly just history in general because it wasn't taught in a way that I learned in school. But I feel like I learned a lot from this book and it actually made me really interested in studying the French Revolution. I'm also thinking about looking up more books that are set during that time period, like fiction books or historical fiction books, because I feel like it's a really good way to learn about a setting. So in this book, Beauty or Belle and the Beast are married, because that kind of happens at the end of the book, or that's kind of what it alludes to anyway. And there was a lot of character growth with it, which I appreciated, but at the beginning their marriage really bothered me because it was very selfish, like this is what I want to do. But I was glad to see that there was growth. And I mean, I think in the book Belle is in her teens, maybe somewhere between 16 and 20 anyway, like very young. So the selfishness in the marriage makes sense, but it was a little bit annoying. So I'm giving that one 4 stars. Then I really go back and forth on whether or not I should include our family read-alouds in my wrap-ups. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. There's really no rhyme or reason, except this one I'm excited to share because this is C.S. Lewis's The Horse and His Boy. So we are listening through the whole Chronicles of Narnia series. Just during our meals, we listen like to a chapter or so. And The Horse and His Boy is a book that I started on my own a few years ago. And I probably got close to halfway and I just couldn't get into it. I really didn't like it. And you know, this might be my favorite book in the series. I don't know, maybe it's a little early to tell, but I ended up really loving this one. So in this one we are in the land of Narnia, but Lucy and Peter and Edmund and Susan are, oh yeah, they are in the book, but they're not really like main characters at all. We follow Shasta, who is on his way to Narnia. And I don't know, I struggled with the writing at the beginning, but then the last half I really enjoyed it. And I always get a chuckle. C.S. Lewis didn't seem to enjoy public education very much. He has a lot of jabs. So this is the 3rd book. We're on to the 4th one already now of his that we've read in the series. And I've never clued in to how many jabs he makes about school and how kids don't like school and how school's not good for you and how it kills the imagination. That cracked me up. And this is not related, but there was a really good quote in here that just really spoke to me. So it's talking about Shasta. He had not yet learned that if you do one good deed, your reward usually is to be set to do another and harder and better one. Yeah, I really like that. I think I need to write a blog post with some of my favorite bookish quotes because some of them just really speak to me. So I haven't even thought about a star rating for this one. Somewhere between 4 and 5. Usually I like books to sit with me for a little bit before I put a number out there, which is usually why I don't necessarily like mid-month wrap-ups. But because I didn't really enjoy the beginning part of this book so much, I'm not sure if I can go with 5 stars. Maybe 4.5. Let's say 4.5 for this one. One of my birthday goals for this year was to read more poetry, And so I thought I would pick up 1,000 Mornings, which are poems by Mary Oliver. And one of the things I've learned is that I really like short poems, and so I thought maybe because of the format of her poems, these ones would be good for me, but I just really didn't enjoy the, I don't know, the topic or the way she wrote. I've realized she's not a poet for me, so I'm going to keep trying more poetry, hopefully find more that I like, but I wasn't very interested in this one. I think I ended up giving it like 2 stars. Yeah, I can't actually say that there was a single poem in here that I really liked at all. Okay, then this is my Agatha Christie of the month. This is Endless Night. I talked about this one a little bit in my last video when I talked about my favorite Agatha Christie books. This almost made the list. This was an honorable mention because I did not like most of the story. It was taking forever. This is pretty much a classic gothic thriller where they're alluding to something. It reminded me so much of Rebecca, honestly. It's like you know something's going on. There's some clues there, but you don't know what it is. And just like Rebecca, I didn't enjoy most of the book, and then everything happened right at the end, and then it's like, oh, I get it. But I want to enjoy my reading experience, and I didn't with this one. I wrote down that I gave it 4 stars. I feel like that might be generous, but the ending was really good. So I'm kind of torn on this one. I feel like the beginning part I probably would have given closer to like 2.5 stars. So maybe like 3.5. Honestly, the stars are so random. 3.5, probably what I would say. Okay, I've got 2 more books left. The next one is Girl in the Blue Coat. This was kind of a cover by slash I read a little bit about the description, and so I picked it up, but at the time I had not heard anyone talking about it. So this is about a girl in World War II who works in the black market. Her job is actually technically the secretary of an undertaker, but he uses the dead people's ration cards to buy more stuff, and then she sells them to people and trades for different things in the black market. But right at the beginning of the book, this is kind of like the whole point of it, is she is giving this one lady her black market goods, and the lady tries to get her to help find a missing girl. She was hiding a Jewish girl, and that girl has gone missing. And so in this book, our main character, she has to think about, make decisions as to whether or not she's willing to risk her life, the life of her family, to do this if she wants to, become part of the resistance and all that kind of stuff. And I really enjoyed that internal struggle. I often think a lot about like, what if that was me back in the day, what would I have done? I feel like if I was in my 20s and single, I would have joined the resistance like right away. That is totally my personality. But now as a mother, I feel like I have different things to consider, right? Like it's not just my own life at risk. And I really enjoyed that process when I was reading this book. I'm giving it 4 stars because I feel like it was missing a little bit of depth. And I can't even like describe exactly what I mean there, but it did feel like a little bit of something was missing. So 4 stars. Still a really good book, but just like not quite 5 stars. Okay, the last book that I've read so far this month, I think it's going to surprise a lot of people because a lot of people thought I was going to like this one. And that is A Still Life. So this is a mystery series. This is book 1. I was so curious about this series, and I am giving this one a 2.5 star. I did not enjoy it very much at all. And the reason behind that is, honestly, I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say anything bad about these books, but I just didn't understand the narrator, like the narrating style. Like we would switch back and forth between characters so fast, and I was always like, wait a minute, who's talking now? So it's a murder mystery set in small town, or like a small village in Quebec. And everyone knows everyone, and it's very Agatha Christie-esque, where, you know, you have your lineup and there are breadcrumbs sprinkled throughout. So if you could put it all together, you could figure it out. But I just honestly couldn't handle the narrating. I'm trying to find a spot. So right at the beginning, this lady dies, and this lady had a dog. And there is like 4 paragraphs, and I'm not gonna be able to find it now. There's like 4 paragraphs where all of a sudden we're like in the dog's head, and it's like narrating from the dog. I'm like, what? Like, I don't know, guys. People like the series, and I'm not even interested in trying more. So yeah, there was a lot of like ups and downs in my reading month so far. I have a lot of books left, and like a lot of the ones I'm really excited about for my January TBR. So yeah, I hope to have a lot more books read soon and have a good end of the month wrap up. I would love to hear something that you've been reading lately, or if you have any like opposing thoughts to my thoughts on these books. That's always fun to talk about. Thanks for watching, guys.